That's why see, Brendan's back there. He's probably smiling. He's like, please talk Beaver baseball. Please go Beavs. He's a hardcore Beaver fan for those of you who don't know. But you all know. Look at what you got, Brendan.
Oh, I was just saying, honestly, Chris, I'm ready for some Blazer talk, man. Been a lot of Beaver baseball the last couple of days, my man.
Yeah, that's right. So you need to mix it up.
But no, all good, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. We are going to have some fun Blazer talk today as I'm joined in studio by a friend of the show. You guys know him. His name's Tori Jones. He's awesome. He's my guy. I told him, I was like, hey, Tori, you did great last time. I gave him the pat on the back, right? I was like, he's like, really? I did good? I'm like, yeah, you did. You did. I said, I'm going to bring you back, though, because you like to do the dive, right? Tori likes to dive into draft prospects. People ask me all the time. I'm like, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to fake it. I'm not going to fake like I know all the best prospects because my focus is just the NBA, and it takes up all my time. I do the dives as we get closer, and we're getting closer. So we brought Tori on today. You guys can follow him on X, Twitter, wherever you want to call it. Tori Jones YT, because he's doing some great stuff over there with Blazers Uprise. I am stealing his thunder, though, because I was asking him questions. He's like, I haven't even had a chance to record a new episode of my stuff yet, so I'm going to get some stuff off your chest. But, Tori, thanks for coming in, as always, man.
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful day, and I'm happy to be in here.
Yes, and you and Chad were talking traffic. You must really enjoy being in here if you brave the traffic down and have to brave the traffic back up. Like, you're swimming upstream both ways this time of day.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth it, though.
Well, Tori, we got some NBA basketball going on. Obviously, the NBA Finals, they're going back and forth. I thought that Game 4, it was interesting. I text Chad in the middle of the game. I'm like, you and I both said on air, our reputation's on the line. I'm exaggerating. But it felt like Indiana was kind of dead in the water after Game 2, right? They stole Game 1 is what it felt like. Felt like Oklahoma City was still going to win that thing. And then I felt like the last 2 games, Indiana's been a much different team. And now we're sitting here, Game 5, all knotted up at 2 apiece. Oklahoma City with the early 23-16 lead, 3:50 left in the first quarter. So before we dive into all the other happenings, what's your take on the NBA Finals and who do you think's going to win this thing?
First off, I just think it's really cool that you have 2 small markets in the NBA Finals, Indiana and OKC. And
Right.
It's also just an interesting contrast in terms of the way these teams have been built. Oklahoma City, they did a full rebuild, had multiple high draft picks, made the trade for SGA. Meanwhile, Indiana was they never fully rebuilt. They've rarely drafted in the top 10 over the past couple of decades. Instead, they just made really shrewd moves, put together a really cohesive team around Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam. Former Blazer general manager Kevin Pritchard's done a great job down there. And the Thunder were heavily favored coming into the series, but you can never count against Indiana. The stuff they've done during this playoff run, the multiple game winners, the multiple comebacks, it's been one of the most fun playoff runs to watch in the NBA. And then this series has just been incredibly hard fought, and it's been a joy to watch.
Yeah, I feel like they've been like one of those Halliburton monster games away from just really putting together, because he's been good, but he hasn't been great in a handful of these games. Siakam's been good. I thought Nebhard's defense all game long in Game 4 was incredible. He just started to get tired. SGA got his foul shots because that's what he does. But I've been saying this since we knew this was the pairing, Tori, and that was the talking heads who want to tell you that only big markets matter are going to have a heyday because they're going to tell, the lowest rated finals since yada, yada, yada. But I think basketball junkies are going to love it because the basketball, I think, has been phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're a fan of basketball, why do you care about the market size? I just want good competitive games. We've had some good competitive games so far. This one looks like it might be getting a little out of hand for Indiana, but I'm hoping this series goes 7 because, it's been really fun, really competitive, too. Both teams got chippy in Game 4, which I think is always a fun element of a playoff series. You play the same team over and over and over again, and it ends up building some animosity. So I'm hoping that Indiana can claw their way back into this game. We've seen them do it plenty of times before, so I'm expecting them to get this game close here.
Absolutely. Hey, what's your take on Rick Carlisle? Because I brought this up a few episodes ago, but when everyone talks about the great coaches in the NBA or the best coaches, it's like, okay, Pop, who just recently retired, or Spoelstra, or Kerr, and like no one ever really talks about Carlisle, despite the fact that pretty much everywhere he goes, he finds a way to turn that team into a winner, and here he is doing it in Indiana.
Yeah, I think he's been really interesting to pay attention to because, of course, he won a championship as a head coach back in 2011 with Dirk Nowitzki, but that offense was a bit slower. They slowed down, played through the half court, played through Dirk. This Indiana team that he coaches is a lot different. They play super, super fast. And I've always said this: good coaches adapt to their personnel and find the best way to get the most out of their personnel. I think some coaches struggle to adapt to an ever changing NBA. We've seen this league trend more towards 3-point shooting, playing out in transition, playing five shooters at a time. And the coaches that have been able to keep up with that have had more success. And I think Carlisle's a perfect testament. I think he's adapted very, very well. And this Pacers team, they play super fast. They play five shooters. They all play off each other well. And I think he's done a great job with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it right there, and it's the ability to adapt to what you have. Because if your roster can't play the way that you want to play, and you don't make an adjustment, you're just going to put a terrible product out there, man. You got to be able to adjust. I like that, and yeah, I think Carlisle, man, he's one of those guys that I give him his flowers now. He deserves them. I like him. I absolutely like him. But yeah, the series is great. Indy's trying to claw back 29-22 with a minute left in the first. But what's crazy is that in the NBA, you would think that the offseason would start in the offseason, but there's still the NBA finals are going on, and there's still it's Steven Adams has agreed to a contract with Houston, 3 years. I love Steven Adams. I would take him on Portland on the all, like I just want him on my team, right? I'm not saying he fits in Portland. Don't start tweeting at me, Tori. I'm just saying if I could put together a team of like I just want that guy for the vibes. Steven Adams might be the top of the list.
Absolutely.
He's signing deals, staying in Houston, so good get for them. But then the big news, and you and I are probably going to spend some time talking about it this show, not just this next question, but moving forward, was the Desmond Bane trade with Orlando. Because I think if you're a Blazer fan, I've been saying it a lot. I'm sure you have and everyone else. Orlando just seemed like a perfect fit for Anthony Simons because the one thing they're missing is that just pure shooter, just to alleviate some of that pressure off of Franz and Paulo. And they went and got their guy with Desmond Bane. What's your initial thought on that 4 first-round picks? They got more picks for Desmond Bane than Dallas did for Luka, and that's wild to me. I know they're not completely equal, but you get what I'm saying. What's your take?
I thought it was interesting because you saw the New York Knicks last offseason trade 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, and he's never been an all-star before. And I thought it was going to be interesting to see this offseason, especially with the East being wide open, if another team was going to make that same type of move where they trade a bunch of future draft capital, unprotected picks for somebody that's a really, really good player, a really good starter, but not a star. And that's exactly what Desmond Bane is. I think with Boston being in trouble this offseason, they're going to have to shed some salary, might trade Porzingis, might trade Drew Holiday. Jason Tatum is going to be out for a while as he tore his Achilles. Terrible. Of course, in Milwaukee, it sounds like they're going to run it back, but they're not going to have Damian Lillard all season because he tore his Achilles. So they're off the map there. And then Cleveland dominated the East last season, but then lost in the second round to Indiana in 5 games. So how good are they really? There's been some trade rumors around Darius Garland. So the East just seems completely wide open right now. And I think Orlando is seizing the moment, seeing an opportunity next year to potentially make a run to the finals. We just saw Indiana do it. And I almost wonder if Indiana is emboldening some teams to think that maybe they can be the next Indiana Pacers, make a 4 seed, upset a Cleveland Cavalier team or somebody else in the second round, and ride a magical wave to the finals. So I think the Magic are going to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league this upcoming season. Last year, they were very injured, and they lacked the shot creation and shot making that Desmond Bane provides. So I think they're going to be a really fun team to watch because you got some young talent on that team. They have some depth. So they were in the perfect position to take a swing like they did for Desmond Bane.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And there's a lot of people who will look at that and want to say that, well, it's an overpay. But I do think sometimes when you have a guy that you like and that's the one you want, sometimes you just got to overpay. Because I think if the rest of the league found out there was any inkling that Bane was available, then you get into those bidding wars and you just put that to bed, right? Like, that's the guy I want. And then you also get the arguments from local fan base, you're like, oh, that could have been Ant. And of course, that is the problem with every fan base. I'm not dogging Blazer fan because we do it as fans. In fact, I'm over here very upset in my sports fandom, Tori, because I'm a Red Sox fan, and apparently you can't have nice things. Every time you have a guy who's a stud, you're like, hey, we don't really want him anymore, right? R.I.P. Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts, and now Rafi Devers. Pain is pain. It sucks, all right? But my point is sometimes you overvalue your guys, right? And I think sometimes you might get into that with Anthony Simons, because you can look at what they did in Orlando and go, oh, Desmond Bane scores, and so does Anthony Simons, but there's a difference. One of them, is going to bring it on the defensive side of the ball. One of them is not great on that side, and that's where that value comes into play. And the one who brings it on the defensive side of the ball is not the one who plays in Portland.
Yep. It seemed like we dreamt of Anthony Simons trade packages to Orlando for 10 years.
Right.
And he made a ton of logical sense for them to pursue. The Magic needed some point guard play, somebody that can also play off the ball off of Banchero and Wagner and knock down three-point shots. And Ant is that type of player. Also, Anthony Simons is from Orlando, so it would have been a homecoming for him. And then also they have a ton of really good defensive players. They have Anthony Black, who's young, but he's a terrific defender. They have Jonathan Isaac as well, Jalen Suggs. They have the defense to absorb a player like Anthony Simons, play Simons to his strengths, and still be a good defensive team. For whatever reason, it seemed like Orlando just did not value Anthony Simons. And I think that's apparent when they trade 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, when maybe they could have had Simons for half the price, depending on what the Blazers wanted to do. So that dream is gone. I'm kind of happy for that dream to be gone because we've talked about it for so long. So we'll see. We'll see if the Blazers move Anthony Simons this offseason still, but Orlando is definitely not a destination for him anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with Orlando, too, is you better hope Desmond Bane is the guy that you want him to be, because if you do what like New York said, well, if New York decides that they want to retool at some point, have fun retooling when all your draft picks reside elsewhere, right? And same with Orlando, who's been kind of historically a team that is just kind of middle of the road for the longest time, which despite the fact that, I like Orlando. I always have. Maybe it's because I grew up when they had some OP jerseys that they tried to replicate with their new release, but that they missed on the black ones. I'm sorry. I get it. You're trying to look like the old jacket, but just ain't it. But yeah, Orlando is not a team that always has the success with the rebuild, so this better hit. Otherwise, they're going to be struggling as well. Torrey Jones joining me in studio today. Follow him on social media at Torrey Jones YouTube. Also, make sure to go on YouTube as well, and make sure you're following Blazers Uprise. He's doing some great stuff over there. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to talk more Anthony Simons. I want to see what he thinks the future is for Ant. Where could Ant go if he is traded now that Orlando is off the table? And then in just over a week, that's how quick this offseason is going. It's NBA draft time, and the Blazers have the 11th overall pick. What are they going to do with it? I'm going to ask Torrey when we come back here on Courtside Monday on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Oh, man. Brendan Slaughter with another Metallica pool. I love you. The more Metallica, the better.
I have been on it with the music game today.
have
Chad
been.
had some good ones too. So yeah, it's sometimes you got to roll with it.
Tory Jones joining me today. You can follow him on social media at Tory Jones YT. I said Tory Jones YouTube a second ago, just assuming YT stood for YouTube. Does it stand for YouTube?
It does stand for
Okay,
YouTube.
I figured because Uprise, that is where you guys get all your pub there. And so make sure you guys are following them, liking them. I'm a big advocate of treat Trail Blazers post game coverage like March Madness, right? Where you have every game. You can listen and watch the fifth quarter and Blazers Uprise at the same time. It is possible. People can do it. I'm just throwing it out there. Okay.
Maybe I'll have to find a way to call into the fifth quarter for my own post game show. We can make it a segment.
Hey, 503-248-0620 is that telephone number. We could totally do that. Now live on both Uprise and see, help me help you. We'll Jerry Maguire this. All right. But follow him over there. He's been doing great work forever. And he and I had some conversations offline before when we were just I was gauging the water, getting to know him. And it's like one thing I respect about you, Tori, is boy howdy. Everybody thinks that, I got a webcam and I got OBS. I can go live. It takes a lot of flipping work to get a YouTube channel off the ground. So again, kudos to you. I like what you guys do. Don't always agree with you and your guy, Eric, but you know what? No one always agrees with me either. It's just par for the course when you're a talking head, my man. But I love what you're doing over there. So big shout out. Again, BlazersUprise.com, Blazers Uprise on YouTube. And again, Tory Jones, YT. The YT stands for YouTube. And that is always par for the course. I never take it personal. It's like, oh, your take is terrible. Yeah, like 50% of my takes are bad. I get it. Tell me. I remember one time, Tori, oh my gosh, I made the mistake of you know how they say you don't kick Beyonce, you don't kick the beehive, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll come after you. Well, I kicked the Carmelo Anthony stan beehive when I said that Gary Trent Jr. should be playing more minutes than Carmelo Anthony, who's just sucking them all away. Oh boy, I don't think I've ever had more internet hate in my life from Carmelo Anthony stans.
Oh, they hated me, man. They despised me. And the thing is with our shows too is there's, the live chats, on YouTube, there's the live chats. So it would always be the same, like 5 people. They were a crew and they'd come in and tell me how terrible I am because I was not nice enough to Carmelo Anthony.
Oh man, I'll tell you this, man, when people tell you how bad you are, just have the courage to get a mic in front of your face and spew your take too. I want to see how good it is. It's tough. This is all my long way of saying Tori's doing great work over there. Now, Tori, enough of just telling you how good you are, okay? Let's get back to business here. Anthony Simons, we were talking about him before we went to break, okay? And you said you're happy that it's the Desmond Bane trade is over. It's done because now you don't have to talk about Orlando. But guess what? You still have to talk about Ant because there's still some teams out there who might use him. And then, of course, the more you start talking about it, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they extend him, the Portland Trail Blazers. So what's your take on Ant? Do you see any teams out there that he's still a logical fit for? And do you think that his future might just very well still be here in Portland?
I think it's more likely they extend him this offseason than they trade him. I think it's tough to find trade packages that the Blazers would be interested in on the open market because after winning 36 games last year, the Blazers, they're not going to trade Anthony Simons for draft picks, I don't think, because they want to be competitive next season. They want to build upon the progress that they made this past season. Unfortunately, that doesn't lend itself to many deals that make sense for the Blazers. No team is going to trade a much better player straight up for Anthony Simons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I do think it's more likely he gets an extension. Now, what an extension would mean is the Blazers would not be able to trade him for 6 months, but they could, if they extended him, let's say at the start of free agency in July, they could then trade him at the trade deadline if a package came along, maybe if they were struggling next season or Scoot Henderson breaks out to the point where the Blazers are ready to move off Anthony Simons. That is a possibility, but I think the Blazers are going to continue to remain patient with Scoot, patient with Shaedon Sharpe even, And I don't think that they're just going to trade Anthony Simons just for the sake of trading Anthony Simons. I think one of the biggest needs they have right now is shooting. Trading away Simons hurts in that regard. So unless you have a plan to replace that shooting loss, because Simons is probably the most talented three-point shooter on the team. Well, his percentage last year was like 36, 37%. Well, that's not super impressive. He takes a ton of threes, high volume, tough looks. He spaces the floor. So it's going to be interesting to see how much talk there is around Anthony Simons, because Orlando was the destination that I thought made the most sense for him. And without Orlando being on the table, there could be other suitors that are calling about him. Maybe it's a team like Dallas, who is going to be without Kyrie Irving for the majority of next year and could use some extra ball handling. They want to be competitive after making that weird Luka trade. And of course, they'll have Cooper Flag as well. But at this point, it's just guessing on my part. So it'll be interesting to see what teams get wrapped up in Anthony Simons trade rumors, or if the Blazers just outright extend him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dallas is one that just comes to mind too, because I think even on a fully healthy squad, if Kyrie's in there, that shooting still helps them out a ton, especially with a guy like Kyrie. You never even have to put the ball in Ant's hands unless he's shooting, which I still think is something he's great at. So also though, it kind of to the point you were making there, and I know people hate to hear it, but I think the worst thing that you can do as a GM is just trade a guy to trade him, because there is still value in if he does sign that extension, finding that right partner down the line at some point too, can be beneficial as well. And I do think I think what's going to be interesting is what is his true open market value, because he's at what, like 27 right now. I personally think his open market value is like the 22 to 25 range. Does he take less? Maybe he does. And I do think if you have a shooter of Anthony Simons' caliber and you're getting him in the low 20s, the value there is not terrible. It's not always just the main number, especially with how the cap just continues to expand and expand and expand. So there's still value there. The only thing is, I still want to see the team move forward and say, this is Scoot and Shea and two and Denny and DC in the long run, and this is our team we're building around. If you want to be a six-man, great with me. If not, sign the extension. We'll still try to find a place for you, but I still want to see the team kind of pick a lane, so to speak.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And the only reason why Anthony Simons trades are a conversation is because the Blazers have both Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. And you could argue for other guys, but I think those are the two players on this Blazers team with the most upside going forward. And I believe we talked about it the last time I was on with you. The Blazers ultimately will need to find their number one player. They'll need to find their star. Even when you look at this NBA Finals, you have the Indiana Pacers, and they play like a really, really functional team. They play really well off each other, but they still have Tyrese Halliburton to initiate everything, set everything up, make all the plays that he does. Who's going to be that star for Portland? You know, maybe not their next Dame, but who's going to be that guy that can run the offense and carry the offense on his back? And I think Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe are hopefully going to be able to take that responsibility over. That's why I would prefer the Blazers to see what's out there for Anthony Simons. Yeah. Like you said, you don't make a trade just to make a trade, but Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, they are the future backcourt, in my opinion, of this team.
Right, I agree.
I think they can work really well off of each other. I like the defensive strides that Scoot Henderson made last year, and then his playmaking with Sharpe's athleticism. I think the five-man group that you brought up with Scoot, Sharpe, Denny Avdia, Tamani Kamara, Donovan Clingan, I think that's the best defensive lineup for the Blazers next season, and that's the identity they're also trying to build. And they also want to play fast, and I think having Scoot and Sharpe in the lineup will help them with that. So I think that young core is the way moving forward as they continue to try and build this identity that they're trying to forge.
Yeah. Also, shout out Kirk, who watches every episode of Courtside, Fifth Quarter, all that. Also says, "Oh, I love Tori and Uprise." So
I love him too.
Now, you know what's interesting is like if you took money out of the equation for a second, right? Mm-hmm. Every single player in the NBA makes $10 a game. It doesn't matter. Everything's equal, right? And you take out the fact that it's hard to take a guy to go from a starter to a bench player on a team that he's been with his entire career. The question I asked you a second ago is what teams do you think Ant would fit on? If you took all the stuff out of the equation that makes it hard to believe, Portland is a team he would fit on. If it's like, hey, you're our sixth man, you're this, everything else is out of the equation. He does make logical sense in that vacuum, which is tough.
Yeah.
That's the tough part. Because then it's all the other stuff that you have to factor in, because that's the reality of it. How much is he getting paid? He has been a starter for the last X amount of years. Does that guy want to go from being a starter to being a bench guy? But that is the tough part, because all that out of the equation, Portland makes sense for him.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's seemingly embraced this city, and he's been very professional since he's been here, and that's what also makes it tough about possibly trading him is he's been here, 7 years, 8 years, and he's still 25, 26 years old. He fits the timeline of the core. It's not really a timeline problem. He gives his team what it needs, but how are you going to figure out the backcourt with Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, and Anthony Simons? I think at some point the Blazers are going to have to choose two of the three.
Right.
And I kind of feel like they're just going to prolong that choice as much as they can, see what Scoot does in year 3, see how much he improves, see if Sharpe can take that leap in what's going to be a contract year as well.
Well, the perfect answer to all of our problems would be you go through camp, you go through the preseason, and Scoot Henderson left no doubt, and he's the starter because he's better than Ant. And if he does that, then you're whatever. Like that's what you want, right? That's exactly what you want. But yeah, I'm with you. I think there's so many unanswered questions with Ant, and I've been asked this: is he going to be traded? Yes. Are they going to sign him to an extension? Yes, because I just wouldn't be surprised either way. I still think, as we talked about a little bit with Chad, he mentioned Dave Deckard believes this team will probably be the same moving forward. I still think that you need to get rid of Jeremy Grant. I thought his exit interview was telling. Like, yeah, that's up to my agent and this and that. Okay, well, you basically said we're going to have those talks without saying we're going to have those talks. Obviously, you need to open up that door for Denny to just get as many minutes as possible. But all I know is I don't envy Joe Cronin, because I don't know if I'd want to be an NBA GM, man.
Yeah, man. The Grant situation is tough because I think it's best for both parties that he's somewhere else next year on a team that might start him and might be a solid playoff team. The Blazers aren't that team because of Denny Avdia and Tamani Kamara. So just like we talked about the Blazers having 3 guards and they're going to have to decide between 2, they have 3 forwards, and the 2 are obviously Avdia and Tamani Kamara. So I think the Blazers will heavily shop Jeremy Grant this offseason. The question just becomes, do you have to attach an asset to get rid of him because he's paid a lot of money?
Yeah. All right. Now, enough about players who are currently playing in the NBA, okay? Let's focus on some guys who are going to find their NBA home in, 9 days now. Next Wednesday, the 25th, NBA draft. Portland, unfortunately, fell back. Yeah, worst case scenario. I remember we were doing that show live, and Chad goes, what's the worst case scenario in your mind? I go, Dallas gets the number 1 overall pick. And then about 15 minutes later, that's what happened, because now Nico thinks that he's God's gift to general management. See, look what I did. Yeah, you had nothing to do with it. Now, though, the Blazers do have the number 11 pick because of everything that went down. Now, it's interesting because they've been holding their pre-draft workouts. Most of them have been with guys who are either projected second rounders or undrafted. Also, a good problem to have is they do have a G League team that they have to fill out, so that's part of it. Now, they have started to hold some quiet workouts. I think Igor came in and did one the other day. What are you feeling? You've started to do your dive and looking at prospects. Like, if you're sitting there at 11, who do you think the Blazers want, or who do you want?
Oh, man. So there are so many potential options for the Blazers on the board. They're at 11. And every draft is different. Sometimes there's kind of like 2 or 3 guys that you expect to go late in the lottery, 11th, 12th, 13th. And sometimes there's just so many good options at that pick, which is a good problem to have. But there's so many options. I could see them potentially going in a number of different ways. So I think for Portland, it's, do you want to draft the best player right now, the best player available? Do you want to draft the player with the most upside that you might have to take some time to develop? Or do you draft somebody that fits a need, which is, I think the biggest need is shooting, 3-point shooting. And maybe you can get a guy that fits 2 of the 3. I think Yegor Demin is the
There
most
you go.
likely pick at 11. Jonathan Gavoni, who does mock drafts for ESPN, worked in the past with Mike Schmitz, who, of course, leads the scouting department for the Blazers, and they started Draft Express together. So I assume those guys still talk to each other.
Right.
Gavoni has been on the mark with his mock drafts for the Blazers the past 3 years. He had them getting Chris Murray at 23. He predicted that. He predicted Shaden Sharp at 7. He predicted Donovan Clingan at 7. He's been predicting Yegor Demin to the Portland Trail Blazers for the past like 4 or 5 mock drafts he's
Okay.
dropped. So it's tough to ignore that because obviously he has a connection with the Blazers front office. So Yegor Demin is interesting because he's a 6'8" point guard, probably the best passer in the draft and a really intriguing prospect. He really struggled shooting the 3 ball last year at BYU,
Hmm.
but supposedly he's a better shooter than what he showed. His shot form is fine. Apparently, he really lit things up at the draft combine, and organizations were impressed with him. So, uh, if you can bring in a guy that's 6'8", 6'9", can handle the ball a little bit, can pass, and might be able to shoot, that might be worth the gamble just because it's hard to find 6'8", 6'9"
Right.
point guards. Now, given that shooting is the Blazers' biggest need, and Demon shot, I believe, under 30% from 3 in college, I don't really know about the fit, and he'd take some time to develop. Meanwhile, there's other guys on the board. A guy I like is Cedric Coward, who played at Washington State. I think he's an NBA-ready 3-and-D guy. He has a 7'2" wingspan. He's 6'6", can pass a little bit. So there's some well-rounded players in that range as well that could fill the shooting need the Blazers have off the bench. But I really do have a gut feeling they're just going to swing for the upside with Yegor Demin.
All right, and that's a name I've been hearing a lot as well. And there's versatility in that pick. And a team we were talking about earlier in Orlando, like look at how versatile of a player Anthony Black has started to develop into, and a lot of that is because 6'7", a guy who can play multiple positions, even though he's your guard, but you can kind of put him anywhere. When you're 6'8", you might be listed as a guard, but guess what? If I need to put you a small forward for defensive purposes, I can. You're going to be able to do those things. So I like that. Another name that intrigues me, I want to get your thoughts on this, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but another name that intrigues me, because I think if the pieces move in the long run, like the Jeremy Grants we're talking about, they're going to need that depth, is Derek Queen. And there's some who think that he's going to be, drafted at maybe 6'7". Some of them thinks he falls a little bit. I think if he's available at 11, that's a pick that I don't know if I'd be upset with, because very versatile big, good ball handling skills for how big he is. Listed as a center, probably can play the 4 and the 5 as well. Gives you that versatility. What are your thoughts on him?
So I first watched him before he even got to college. He was playing in a high school All-American game, and I was immediately just impressed with some of the post moves, some of the footwork he had. He kind of reminded me of a little high school version of Jokic. He can pass. He's crafty. He's a very polarizing prospect because he has very clear, unique strengths for a big man, being able to put the ball on the floor. Some of his post moves, his passing is just very unique at that size. But then he also has very clear red flags. The defense is a major, major question mark. He's kind of like a small center. I think the ideal version of him is somebody that can play the 4, but in order to do that, he needs to be able to shoot. So he would be worth the gamble with the hope that he could back up Donovan Clingan long term and be a bit of an offensive hub off the bench. And then if he can develop his shot, maybe get a little quicker, he can play next to Clingan in some lineups, and he provides you with a really unique player. And I think that's kind of what this pick comes down to for the Blazers. Do you draft somebody with a unique set of traits that are hard to find, or do you draft somebody that you're not going to have any questions with fitting in? I would not mind them taking a swing on a Derek Queen just because of the things he can do. It's not easy to find.
Absolutely, especially when the guy who you're trying to open the door for at the 4 and Denny is a guy who can play the 3 and the 4, and 2 can play the 2. You get there's just that roster versatility. And you have gone through. We talked about this last time I had you on about being a college basketball player and going through all that. And so you know this very well. But I have always said that the thing that always worries me the least about a prospect is their shooting, because I find that to probably be the easiest thing to fix, because anybody can walk into a gym and grab a basketball and work on their shot. I can't really work on my passing by myself. Can't work on my defense solo.
Yep.
You got to have another person, right? But shooting can, and we've seen guys like Nasir Little who came in to the NBA with that shot. Now, granted, he's bounced around, but the shot was reliable by the time he left Portland. Wasn't when he got here, right? You even saw guys like Myers Leonard, who, if you looked at him in college, he lived around the rim in college.
Yeah.
And then he became a pretty darn good three-point shooter because, that was the changing way of the NBA. I'm just saying, shooting, I've never worried about. If the mechanics are there, like you said, with them, and they are, I don't worry about that because those things can be fixed. All right, we talked a lot about the Blazers, but I'm going to throw another all-NBA question here at Torrey about another superstar who wants out. And what will that look like come next season? We'll let you know when we get back here on your home of the Blazers, River City Radio 620.
Thanks, man.
Welcome back into Courtside. We're running up against the clock. Okay, we got about 5 minutes, 4 minutes. I was going to ask Tori about Kevin Durant, so it's really quick. Is Kevin Durant going to be a Rocket? Is going to be a Spur? Where's he going? What's the value for a guy at his age who's still really good, but you know that you only have a short window with him?
My gut has said Spurs this entire time, but he's trying to dictate where he's going. But Phoenix is just going to take the best package. A dark horse team to watch out for him, Toronto.
Ooh, I like that, and that would help them tremendously. Him and Scotty next to each other. I like that.
They traded for Brandon Ingram as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a big, lengthy team. Oh yeah, Houston makes a lot of sense. If he goes to Houston, though, then he's never going to be able to dodge the front runner accusations that he already gets. Right?
It might already be too late for that.
It might be. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Phoenix. The Nurkic wasn't the answer. Sorry, guys, but they're going to figure that one out. Now, you and I were just talking during the break about Zach Collins, who I love. Zach Collins. I would take him as my rotational big any day of the week. Still a good defender. I like him. And it made me think of the Spurs for a second. I want to get your thoughts on this because it's kind of flown under the radar. Personally, I love the hire of Thiago Splitter. I think Thiago Splitter is a very, very smart basketball brain. He's up there with some of the best that I've had a chance to see in my time. I still think the smartest basketball player I've ever talked to was Manu Ginobili in a post-game locker room. That guy, when he talked, you would have thought that he sat in on Blazer film sessions because he knew everything. So smart. But the fact that the Blazers went out and hired Thiago and a guy who has NBA big man experience in the trenches, I think this guy might be able to unlock guys like Donovan Clingan. I think this is a great hire. Maybe I'm wrong, but I want to get your take on that.
I don't think you could come up with a better assistant coach hire for Donovan Clingan than Thiago Splitter. I've loved the hirings that the Blazers have made so far for their assistant coaching staff. They turned it over a bit last offseason, turning it over a bit again this offseason. I think they've hit home runs with multiple guys, but Thiago, I think, is perfect for Clingan.
I mean, I granted, you only know so much about an assistant coach. There's guys you like, but just on the outside looking in, we liked Scotty Brooks just because the NBA experience there. But when it just comes to an assistant coach, just to fill, I mean, Thiago just might be the best one that's come through on his staff outside of a guy like Scotty who had NBA head coaching experience. I like this hire a lot. I think Thiago I think he's going to be great for guys like DC, man. I love this.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And then Patrick St. Andrews, another hire they made coming over from Memphis. Memphis did some creative stuff offensively last season. I think the Blazers could use a little bit more offensive creativity, so I'm hoping he helps bring that as well. He's
and he was, and I believe he was Jenkins' right hand guy. Like he was the guy. I also really, really like. It's not a demotion. I really like the move of Jonah Hurskew to the Rip City Remix because the reasoning for that is you have a guy who's been with Billups under Billups's umbrella, and now he goes down to the Rip City Remix, where now you have that continuity. There wasn't that continuity between Moran and the Blazers. I mean, Moran was a Stotts guy, right? Yep. You still tried to do your best, but the moves this year, hopefully they can put it together. But yeah, just random brain bounce. Thiago Splitter, love the hire. All right, music means it's time to go. We got about 45 seconds. Once again, thank you so much, Tori. You are welcome back anytime. I'll hit you up in like another month or so. You'll just become a recurring guest. And we'll definitely find a way to get Uprise integrated into the fifth quarter at one point. Again, you can follow Tori over on social media, Tori Jones YT, and make sure you give Uprise a like, a share, a subscribe over there on YouTube. My wife has texted me, though. She's texted me the image of the bow. There you go, YouTube. You can see it. That means it's time to put a bow on it and get out of here. We got to end this bad boy. And as always, there's only one way to end a Courtside Monday. Until next time, Rip City, I love you.